can we fix MMR? I get this question asked kind of a lot. MMR was made with good intentions in DBD, most like other games such as Warzone, but it's in practice always kind of carried out wrong. It's made to make a new player to the actual game have an easier time and go against players with their skill level so they don't get stomped. However, it doesn't really work out that way. The way that the developers at Behavior have made it, they want to cater to new players with their MMR system, but it ends up backfiring. And we've even seen many people picking up the game for the first time and going against players who have hundreds to thousands of hours. Even in one of Otts' live streams where he is coaching a new player on Killer and Survivor, among their first games, they went against very well experienced players. So it's very obvious that, yeah, it doesn't work too well. This clip that I'm about to show is the actual justification of MMR by the lead developers at Behavior, including Patrick, that we all know.
But what constitutes a win is really, really straightforward. If a survivor escapes alive, that's a win for the survivor. If the killer kills a survivor, that's a win for the killer. It looks at their various MMRs and it goes, all right, killer killed this many survivors escaped, and then it does its fancy math and adjusts the numbers all up and down based off of that.
See, the issue with this is that DBD is not a competitive game. It will never be a competitive game. It is just a party game. And unless they significantly change how the game works, it will never be competitive. What they're basically saying here is they're looking at it from a perspective as like a game of Overwatch or League of Legends. They ignore how you get there, whoever wins, and they just give you points based off of that. But Dead by Daylight is not like that at all.
They talk about the survivor perspective of, hey, you know, I was playing a game of Survivor and I looped the killer for 7 consecutive hours and I unhooked, you know, 18 other survivors and I healed for 93 health states. I fixed 10 generators. It was such an amazing game. I truly am a god amongst mankind when I play Dead by Daylight. But then right at the end, I got thrown on a hook and I died, and I don't like that that counts as a loss. And the idea here is, wouldn't it be nice if you could do all of that and sometimes you'd get out alive? Right? Like, wouldn't that be nice?
It would be nice because, listen, we've all seen this clip, and I love the developers of DBD. I love this game, okay? This is not me trying to rag on them, but they have been called out for clips such as like this, you know, where Patrick does seem to come off as super condescending. And yeah, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, in their own words, ignore the nuance of how we get to the end point of the game. But that's not how Dead by Daylight is. It's not like Overwatch. It's not a competitive game. In DBD, we can run the killer for 5 minutes and still die at the end. Does it really matter? No, you should still have fun doing that. But why is your MMR going down, your invisible MMR going down, if you do something really skilled, really hard to do? If you get 9, 8 hooks in a game as killer, which would, if you get 8 hooks, that essentially means everybody left is on death hook. So that's a really close game. That's a really close game, but in Behavior's eyes, no, the killer got stomped. No, since you didn't get a single sacrifice, that means your MMR should have to go down. When in reality, it was just a really close game.
That's the idea. That's all MMR is trying to do, is it goes, I know that you died. It's ignoring how you got there because there's too much nuance to be able to make a real effective system. So we just ignore that.
But ignoring the nuance is how we've gotten here. If you ignore how many gens someone does, how long they've been in chase, why are we here? Why is the community so unhappy? And I have seen some people out there say, well, this is obviously like, you just don't want to go against players at your same skill level, or you just want easy games every single time. But that's not the issue. I understand that argument. But at the end of the day, MMR just not work. The old ranking system was much better. And why is it that if a survivor is being immersed the entire match and does nothing but escapes through the end, why is that counted as a win? If the survivor does nothing to help their team, doesn't interact with the killer at all, why is that counted as a win? Another issue with MMR is that it doesn't take into account what perks or builds you're running. So if you're running no perks, if you're running a meme build like No Mither, or if you're running the strongest perks on the game on Survivor or Killer, it basically acts as though you're not running anything. It's all the same. That's another big issue with MMR. It doesn't factor in what you bring into the game. It doesn't factor in if you're playing in a Swift. Swifting is pretty strong in this game as well. I'm not saying to nerf Swifts. They're already coming up with a way to show what your teammates are doing in solo queue, better communication, which is good. I think that's really good. But Swifting, you probably will win more of the time if you're playing in a Survivor Friends group compared to solo queuing. Another issue is that if I'm playing as Killer and I decide to base camp someone out of the game, like for example, if I decided to do Insidious Bubba in basement and everybody came down and tried to save, and I got everybody down and I put them on a hook, the game thinks that that was a very skilled play. Even if you go AFK, like AFK Pig or, you know, Insidious Bubba, if you get kills doing that, the game thinks what you're doing is a skilled play, even though it obviously is not. If they want to fix MMR, they need to, one, keep track of what perks, add-ons, offerings, items you're bringing in. They probably should keep track of, are you playing with a team? How many hooks you get as Killer? How many gens are finished at the end of the day? They should be looking at everything. I know that would take so much more time, but the nuance is what makes DBD DBD. Like, you can't just ignore the nuance and be like, well, did you live? Did you die? Okay, here's your points. If they want to fix MMR, they need to make it a visible rank. They need to make it a separate mode. And I know they don't want to do that because it will split the player base, but it would be better for the game's health. They should be tracking all the nuance that they want to avoid so much. Yeah, I know it would take so much more work for them, but if you don't factor it in, then MMR is not going to work. Patrick also compares the game to hockey for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Because I've played hockey for most of my life. Coming from Canadians, this is kind of silly saying. What matters in a game of hockey? Who wins, right? This is what they're trying to go for. But what they don't understand is that there's also such a thing as getting points for going to overtime. That is a thing. They're kind of directly contradicting themselves when they say that the game's related to hockey, when in fact, you still get points even if you end up losing in the end. I know there are some people as well that really like MMR. And again, this isn't a hit to you, but I think the more experience you have with this game, the more you'll realize that MMR just isn't healthy for it. In any game that we've seen get dropped with MMR, skill-based matchmaking, it's always been just hated. It's always been disliked. And I hope Behavior can take the time to either fix the system or just remove it entirely. I love this game. It's my all-time favorite game, and which is why I really hope they can do something about it.